Customer Commerce Podcast, where technology's fast and biz is a blast.
In life and in business, time is precious. It's why customers stay or leave and why businesses succeed or fail. We're here to give a voice to everything that makes business, whether as a customer or as a CEO, easier and more rewarding. Welcome to the Customer Commerce Podcast. Let's dive in. Welcome, ladies and gents, to episode 12 of the Customer Commerce Podcast. My gosh, we are flying through these episodes. I'm Jess, your host, as always. And from one side of the world, down under, we have CEO and founder of Store Connect, Mikel. From the other side of the world, in Great America, we have David Breyer, the ultimate brand man. And I am coming at you from the land of pasta and lots of hand gestures and loud vespers, all the way in Italy. So wherever you are, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. This episode, we're going to dive into a fountain, if you will, just because, of e-commerce myths. With so much information floating around the internet and social media, it's easy to get a skewed view of what it takes to run an online business. Some people might think it's as simple as signing up for an online commerce platform and watching their business take off overnight, and then they're off on a jet plane as thousands and thousands of online orders come through. Others might believe it's so complicated that even starting seems impossible. Fortunately, I'm joined by these two seasoned experts who've navigated the complexities of business for many years. And together, we're going to debunk some common myths that could be holding you back if you're a business owner, whether you're hesitant to start, struggling to grow, or just unsure of how to scale your business. Let's get into it and separate fact from fiction in the world of e-commerce. We're going to start with a common belief. Are you ready for this?
Yeah, I'm Jess, I was bored ready.
Okay.
Hit me.
Good. The bigger your product...
I was talking to the doctors and they would agree. He was born ready.
True. He came out of the womb, typing on the laptop, shooting some content.
I actually
He's like, where's my espresso? He's like, where's my espresso? Come on.
The bigger your product range, the better. What do you think? Is there strength? Yep.
Who likes going to Who likes going to a restaurant? Like when you go to a restaurant, right? And my wife and I have this as a pet peeve. You go to a restaurant and you look at the type of food it is and you go, okay, you know, that looks like a good restaurant. I'll walk in. And you open up the menu and it's like 14 pages long of 10-point type. And you're going, and you look at the kitchen, right? And there's one person in there cooking, right? And you're going, okay, how on God's earth can that one guy make all of those dishes appropriately well? And you just know they can't. And you're going, well, okay, what's the most likely dish that he makes a lot of, so he's probably pretty good at, you know? And then you're starting to whittle it down and whittle it down and whittle it down. Okay, so my answer to your question is both yes and no, unfortunately. Amazon is the perfect example of every product available is the ultimate for your brand, right? That's like for that brand. And eBay and Otto and all of these marketplaces, they're like the ne plus ultra example of where that myth is not a myth. Actually, I don't know which way the myth was said. So the example of lots of products is fantastic, right? However, if you are trying to communicate a brand, the death knell of your brand message, if you want to say, and David could probably talk to this a little bit further, is dilution. And if you try and be everything for everybody, you're going to be not enough for everybody. And that's really the key result, right? So you have to deliver what the clients expect they're going to receive when they come to your website. And that's probably the litmus test of it. It's not about how many products you have, because that's actually... You know, if I'm buying coffee from a coffee shop online and they offer me these really great brand new tumblers, which are Bodum glasses that have got a double wall on it so it keeps the coffee warm and all this sort of stuff, well, that would make sense. You know, I'd be like, yeah, and that looks good. I'll whack in some glasses. But if I'm selling coffee and on the website We're not sponsored by Swiss, so if you want to contact us, let us know. Multivitamins at the coffee shop. I don't know. It's a bit like weird. What are you trying to say? I'm only drinking coffee because I need like an energy boost in the morning, and I probably need some more vitamins. David, over to you.
To add to that, I think there's two distinctions here. One is if you are a brand, a company offering XYZ, you want to be deliberate and intentional and not just make it widespread. Now, that's very, very distinct from, are you a marketplace? Like your Amazon example. Amazon is a marketplace. I, the shopper, can go there and I can get all the crap that I want from all these different categories. And in that particular circumstance, great to have variety. But if you are a company, like when Steve Jobs came back to Apple, when he was brought back to Apple, I mean, his first thing was how many things. I think he found that they had like 3,000 SKUs, something insane like that. And he was like, wait a second, we're knocking this down, right? We're knocking this down to whatever smaller manageable amount.
3 product lines or something that he'd reduced it to.
Yeah, but I'll give you an interesting, very, very practical example. There was a local coffee house, like actually kind of like a foodie destination, but they had this coffee section, and it was fascinating to watch the shoppers. They had about, and I kid you not, about 50 different bins of different types of beans. And I watched shoppers walk in front of that, and it was like they were overwhelmed. It was like, how do I know what to choose? And so it was interesting to watch. It literally took about 10 minutes for them to kind of look and maybe finally dial it down. That's a long freaking time. You're like, I want coffee, 10 minutes to just get to your decision point. So here's what happened. And this was fascinating. I created a chart that basically was literally 7 questions. And I put the coffee in 4 categories, from very light roast to medium to darker to extremely dark. So 4 columns, 7 questions on the left. These were 7 questions they could answer, such as, how do you like your steak? And they can answer, and they can see which column their answer fell in. How do you like, what kind of cheese do you like? What kind of beer do you like to drink? What kind of wine do you like? In other words, these were things they could experientially answer. And invariably, they would have a majority in one of those columns, those vertical columns. And to watch them go through that was mind-blowing. They were like, it was literally as though they went from confusion to, all of a sudden they were like, and if, let's say bold was their thing, I'm a bold. They were so excited. And it took away the confusion. So now all of a sudden this big variety, which was a problem, now became, okay, I now know the ones to look for. It was color-coded. So now they just looked at the ones that were that. So we can help people properly, and it's not dissimilar to a conversation that we were at, Michael, that we were having last week, in terms of really helping people to have the judgment to be able to navigate and go, oh, that is for me, that isn't for me. And then choice doesn't become a problem. Choice has to be managed well. We have to help navigate people.
I think
that's so interesting.
Yeah, it's like to be able to decide, the person has to understand, right? So if they can't understand what they're looking at, and coffee's a great example. I mean, I drink coffee enough times that I could probably call it unhealthy.
Yeah, that pause just answered it.
But I would have trouble picking coffee from a wall of 40 coffees, because purchasing coffee is not a skill set that I've developed. So how can you expect a consumer to develop that skill set? So yeah, that's a really good point. Choice, analysis paralysis, and choice, and that sort of thing. I mean, that's why, in customer commerce, in the book, which is coming out soon to a bookstore near you, there'll be some datums around answer those questions in advance, like get in there and give them that next best recommended product based on purchase history and things like this, which good websites will do. Bad ones, or ones that just don't have that technology in play, can't. And that just makes you, I don't know. I remember I was buying something or other around here. It was a headlight, a running light for when I'm running. And the number of choices, I mean, oh my gosh. And you're sitting there going, well, do I get this one or this one? This one's 0.3 of a gram heavier, but this one's got a foldable little thingy, and like just the research that went into this $40 purchase could have funded a small country.
But also, what are the challenges that like a business owner would have in managing those kind of large product offerings, like from the actual business owner side? Because yeah, that's true. The customers would have challenges in that aspect of too much choice. But what are some of the challenges that maybe from an e-commerce business owner standpoint would they have in managing such a large offering?
Yeah, I've been doing a lot of work analyzing this because there's probably several hundred. I'm actually getting someone to go and find every e-commerce logo for me. And there's several hundred different versions of e-commerce logos. And the reason I say that is the problem the business owner has quite often is due to lack of time of trying to be able to manage these different items and build the relationships and make all of that work, right? But the reason they don't have the time more often than not is they're having to do it 2, 3, 4, 5 times and make sure it's working across all the different platforms. And e-commerce systems are meant to solve this, right? And I say it that way because anyone who's doing e-commerce right now knows that more often than not, that's not the case. And the reason for that, and what I found, I've been really deep diving over the last 3 weeks on what makes Store Connect different to other e-commerce platforms. And I know this, this isn't an ad, but people listening, indulge me for a minute. So I've been really deep diving on what makes Store Connect unique in the e-commerce marketplace. And what I found was that roughly you can take the e-commerce circle of systems that exists, call it 200 or 300 of them, and you can roughly divide them into thirds. A third of them are what you could call, well, not a third, but one category of the 3 are what you would call enterprise e-commerce solutions, right? And this includes, Commerce Cloud and Adobe Experience Manager and custom built solutions where you hire a development team to build an e-commerce stack from scratch. These are the hyper expensive, incredibly customizable, really feature rich, showcase things that all the billion-dollar companies out there put up as like, hey, look at how good this is. And every small business owner in the world goes, geez, that looks good, and there's no way on God's earth I'll ever afford it, right? That the reason those solutions are so good is that there's very, very little double data entry. It's all just one big system and everything just works, right? The second category of systems would be called the marketplace systems. And what they are your Amazons, your eBays, your Ottos, all of these. And they give you convenience and instant access to a marketplace, but then you don't have your customer. And then you're going to have to add those items to each marketplace. And this is where those small businesses get to, I'm having to update all these things and keep it all running. And I'm at the mercy of this team and I could be replaced at any moment. So that's the second category. The third category is what I like to call the traditional e-commerce segment. And these include your Shopify's, your BigCommerce's, your Magentos, your Neato, all of these. Maripost, I think it's called now. And for a small business, like maybe a startup, they're trying to test a marketplace and get things up and running. Those solutions are fantastic. They are really, really great, and get in there. The problem comes in when you want to take that startup in the traditional, because we can all agree that any small company wouldn't be going for enterprise, right? I mean, they just don't have the budget. Going for marketplace, yeah, you could start, but the problem with a marketplace play like Amazon is you're not building your brand, because at any point you can be replaced by a knockoff. So we can all sort of agree that generally you're going to start on these more traditional platforms. The problem with that, though, is when you want to scale. And that's where we're talking about when you need to add your products in multiple different categories or multiple different systems, or you want to launch 3 stores, one for each country, or you want to launch a different store for each brand, or you want to offer subscriptions, or you want to offer rewards and loyalty, or you want to run the content of your website out of the same platform that's running your e-commerce website. This is where you're starting to add all of these plugins and plugins and plugins and add-ons and connections. And those are what kill the time and sanity of small to medium business owners. It's not actually updating the product listing, right? That's actually sort of the fun bit. I've got a new product and I'm going to take some photos of it and we're going to put it up there and we're going to make it look fantastic. And my marketing person's going to write the most amazing copy for it. And people are just going to be screaming for this product. The annoying bit, and the thing that I'm sure has a percentage point of the worldwide suicide rate associated with it, is maintaining and keeping all of these different small business systems connected. Companies less than 5 staff on average have 25 to 50 systems that they're running together to try and run their business. If that isn't insane provoking, I don't know what is. So that's really where Store Connect fits in. It's a new category. It takes the customizability and feature richness and out of the boxness of these enterprise platforms, along with the multi-market reach of these marketplace systems and the ease of use of the traditional e-commerce platforms, and puts it in a big pot and stirs it up, and voila. You've got a platform, multiple marketplaces, you can do what you need to do, but the most critical aspect of it is you only have to enter each product once. And this is so powerful as a datum that a lot of people, when I'm explaining what Store Connect does to them, they sort of gloss over that until they realize and they start adding up how many times they touch that piece of work or that piece of information. So it's not actually having lots of products that kills you as a business. What kills you is having lots of products and then having to redo them again and again and again and again and again. And we're trying to save people from that. So that was a bit of a segue, but this was something that really hit me on my 9-hour drive yesterday when I was helping my dad move to Sydney.
Wow. Well, yeah, it does answer that question. And I guess one more question on top of that. When would it be the best time for a business to expand their product range? Say that they're nailing it in the coffee department. They have 3 options. Amazing. Everyone loves it. When is the best time to go, cool, we're just going to add on an extra? When is that time suitable?
I think the first bit would be when they're sufficiently handling the current flow that it's not a problem. I wouldn't want to keep bolting on products if I was unable to deliver the last time someone ordered this, It's talcum powder, not cocaine. It's all good.
Thank God.
Thank God, just in case you were wondering. No,
Yeah, this episode would not be airing if it was. Yeah.
I would be making sure that my ability to service my clients with my existing product range is at a sufficient level that I can afford to spend the time and attention to put another product range in. That would probably be my first indicator from a purely operational point of view. But David, from a brand point of view, what?
My basic thing is I look at the brands that I find the most rewarding, that I stay loyal to, are the ones that seem to anticipate the next thing that I need. So if I have a product offering, let's say it's coffee, is there something else that my customer, after making that purchase, now gets it home and goes, oh God, if I only had XYZ, that would be great. Well, why the heck aren't I offering that, right? So to me, that's, I call it the amount of future, because the best brands anticipate and include more future and look that anticipatory kind of viewpoint than one that's just, we make a really great XYZ and that's it, right? And it's just a silo. wait a second, if you're really doing something good, you're offering a good product or service, there's something else that's going to make that even more valuable. And if we thought of that, you don't now need to go elsewhere. And we now so it seems to be organic and it seems to make sense, but it's looking through that lens.
Love that. Love that. All right, we'll move on to the next one. There's a myth that negative reviews will ruin your business. I think, David, can a bad review really be that damaging, or is there a silver lining to negative feedback?
Well, I mean, of course, there's a context. Obviously, if you're saying, hey, you're making a big, bold promise, and people are saying that's complete rubbish, well, then that's a problem. But if you basically, let's say you have an 80+% or 90+%, and people love it, but then you have the occasional, whoops, a miss, da 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 da. If you are really proactive and not defensive and not saying, well, we tried our best, or we're going to ignore you, or we're going to ghost you, or whatever. But if you're like, that is amazing feedback. We didn't actually anticipate that. And you've just given us feedback that's going to allow us to improve. That's showing that you actually care about the actual evolution of what's being offered. And so it's in context. If you're having a big promise and you're really missing, and you basically overpromised and way underdelivered, or essentially lied, just you really over pushed it and basically lied and embellished, that's a problem. That's a cultural problem. That goes even earlier than what ended up showing up online. It's like, wait a second, how did we ever get to this point that we actually have a culture that would allow us to even be so blind that we're drunk on our own Kool-Aid and we're just going, we just want to say anything. So there are lanes. There are lanes of where it could be good and where it could be bad.
Every customer interaction is a chance for you to establish a relationship. So that's the first datum, I think, that's important here. But the problem with online reviews is that quite often you can't get into communication. Like, they're just, and I'm guilty of that. I've done that more than once to Qantas Airlines, and I'm a very frequent traveler. And I've done it to American, and I've done it to pretty much every airline I've traveled on at some point, I'm sure. Not just, call out Qantas, because I have to say, actually, that they're getting a lot better. I think the problem with negative reviews, though, is that the systems that allow you to leave a negative review are not built to enable customer commerce. And what I mean by that is, the ideal scene would be, I leave a negative review and I give them 1 star. What that's going to do is that's going to crash the rest of their review metrics. And that's what everyone's worried about. And now, instead of a 4.97, I'm at a 4.2 or 3. If I engage that customer and can work out what the problem is and fix it, there should be a very simple way for that customer to go back and adjust that. It was a 1, now it's a 4.
Totally
right?
agree.
They fixed it. And that would be pretty good. And I encourage any review company that's doing this to actually do that. Yeah, David.
I have a question. Do we have that ability? Do we have that built into Store Connect, where someone can, after they've given a star ranking on a review, is that something that we have built into that someone can go back and amend it?
Store Connect itself doesn't do reviews.
Okay.
Because to build a review marketplace of reviews, you need to have a sufficient quantity to make it make sense. So we haven't built that as a that's a whole different almost technology of reviews. It's something that we could do into the future.
That'd be pretty amazing, though. That'd be pretty amazing to actually bring that to the marketplace.
Do alternate reviews. The reason we wouldn't probably go ahead and build that is that it's pretty easy for these large review companies to add that as just a little bolt-on feature, as opposed to building the whole infrastructure around it. But they should, right?
Yeah.
So I think the challenge there is not so much the negative review, but the inability to handle it. To give you a good example, if someone tweeted a bad experience to a company and then you see that company engage that person, and there's a conversation which resolves in a positive outcome, you go, okay, good. That doesn't diminish greatly. If anything, it increases a bit of trust.
Yeah.
And the
Even
other thing is that, a 5.0 review with 20 reviews is a much worse indication than a 4.96 with 500 reviews.
And even if the person on the other end is still like very violent, but the company is just keeping its cool, to me that shows like
Maturity.
Yeah. I'm like, oh, okay, this person's just crazy. This person just wants to start a fight, but this business is
That's right.
handling it so well.
And you're going to get those people. They exist. Despite
Sure.
all of the communications to the contrary, there are actually insane, really bad people in the world. So you're going to hit them. Just be happy that it's only a couple of % of the population that are going to do that. And generally, you're going to be dealing with sane individuals. And keep your conversations honest and straightforward. And as long as, like what David said, the most important aspect of this is culture. You have to make sure that your company genuinely wants to deliver what they promise and help their customers achieve whatever the goal of your company is. And that will come across in the way that you handle reviews. So don't be afraid of negative reviews. Take them as an opportunity to really flex your customer service strength and show how awesome it could be.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. All right. Here's another big one. More traffic means more sales. What do you think?
Fundamentally, yes, that's true.
It's a theory.
It's a
wonderful
theory. I mean, look, if you know that every 100 visits to your website results in one sale, then you can scale that, right?
Good point.
But if you don't know that and you haven't actually worked out what your go-to-market is or what your communication is, then, and it's only 1 in 1,000, then scaling it just means that you're giving 999 customers another reason not to buy your product.
Which is almost worse.
Which is almost worse.
Yeah.
And it's also, that's like it's saying everything is equal under the sun. It's like, what about a sales cycle that takes 6 months versus a sales cycle that takes 2 weeks,
or one that only happens at Christmas or
Right.
Christmas sites. But I think, look, fundamentally, my answer to that would be that's true, because people send money to things that attract their attention and get their confidence. So if you have a confidence building site that is aesthetic and people go there and find what they want and they want to buy it, then yes, driving more traffic to it makes sense, as long as it's the right sort of traffic. There's no point going and buying a bot farm to hit your website. No computer's going to buy your product. That would just be a waste of time and money. The other thing is also true. You need to be on a platform that can actually scale to handle that spike in traffic, and that can kill you just as easily if your website is offline because there's so many people hitting it and it's a really bad customer experience. Again, that's another reason why it could be bad. So I guess fundamentally, you should be trying to drive traffic into your site. It's almost a magic of business is the more people around something, the more it attracts other people to come around that thing and look at it. And that works in retail, that works at trade shows. The number one thing you can do at a trade show, if you have a booth, is make sure there are people that are not wearing your uniform standing around that booth at all times. Do whatever you can do. But if you can have a crowd around your booth, it will attract more crowd. That's human nature. So,
and you just reminded me. This is to that exact point, when Red Bull was rolling out Red Bull, and they were trying to figure out how do we like jack up the sales and the popularity and the visibility of it. They came up with this caper. This caper was outside of London nightclubs. the metal mesh that you could see through kind of trash cans, not the opaque ones where you can't, but these are the ones where you see. They took Red Bull cans, emptied them, crushed them as though they had been consumed, and filled these trash cans around like London nightclubs. So when people coming out going, "Whoa, that's like," and immediately there was a complete perception that it was like, "Whoa, that's like an amazing thing. We need to get some Red Bull." And so to that point, it's like there's your crowd, there's your evidence right there in the trash cans.
Genius.
Yeah,
Maybe not quite environmentally friendly these days, but genius.
Yeah,
a brilliant caper,
but it's interesting. Like the opportunities, where do people's attention go? Separate to advertising, and where else do people look?
Yeah.
That's so fascinating.
Well, that is advertising.
Yeah, but it's different. It's different.
It's clever. Yeah, it's out of the
almost
box.
like I can't even compare. I'm trying to think of another way you could be as smart of that, like where someone would naturally look and not think of it as a sale. Anyway, interesting. Well, before we wrap up, we haven't done a real customer in a very long time. Do we want to listen to one?
Yes.
Here we go.
Went online to a website called Prism Plus. They sell monitors and associated goods and TVs and whatnot. It's all over social media at the moment. Their product is really good. I don't mind it. However, their online experience is left to be a bit lacking. They constantly have flash sales and up to 70% off. They show you on the ticket online that what it'll be 70% off. You put the two screens in your basket, then you gotta go buy yourself a monitor mount for the two screens, all showing that it's got a discount on them. Get to your cart, and all the pricing's all there. It looks okay, but it doesn't show you the discount. And then you put your credit card in and pay, and then go back and check the pricing after you receive the goods, and it's only showing you one item as 70% off. When they advertise everything online is up to 70% off, and everything has a discount applied to it. But when you get to the checkout and checkout afterwards, they turn around and say the discount code is only applied to one item, and they would not apply it across the items that they show the full discount on online as advertised. And they refuse to reimburse you for any of the such. In my experience, I didn't get any code applied to my cart at all, even though I bought during a 72-hour flash sale. And they have, to date, not fixed it more than a week later. And I have screenshots of their website even now doing the same thing.
Okay.
Bastards.
Wow.
Oh my gosh, that sucks. I was laughing at David's bastards, not at this poor guy's experience. But this is an example of where the intention of what's trying to be sold is being let down by the system. Because if you actually listen, what he's complaining about is that during checkout, it was showing the discount codes. And then after checkout, it wasn't. And that's a failure of the way that the systems are integrated. And that's a common problem, right? Also, probably they need to put a big limit, one per customer or something, on the screens, which when you think about it, quite often is pretty useless, because I'm sure they could let you do 2 checkouts at 70% off, right? So why put your customer through it? I think this is a great example of where they could just fix it. You know, they could have called him and said, look, really sorry, thanks for your screenshots. Here's a partial refund of $30. Please come back next time. And he would be a customer for life. But now they've got him complaining to realcustomers.com as a result. And this is the reason why we created realcustomers.com. We've got to start making some of these things known We will bleep out the company's name, but
Yeah.
this is just an example of stupidity. Not stupidity. That's a bit harsh. Like, we don't know what that company's going through, or maybe it's just one person madly trying to type away, but it's definitely a missed opportunity, right? To re-engage with that customer, say, looks, whoops, yep, our bad. Thanks for finding the bug for us. We've refunded one of your whole screens. Have $100 off instead of 70, and pay them for the privilege of taking their time and give them some money back. And just, I would put in the tweet or the message back to this person, sorry for the confusion. We've given you a full refund on one of your screens. Thanks so much for making this happen and finding it for us. Please note, this is a special one-off for yourself. It's not like we can just do this for everyone. And we fixed the website, so now it's very obviously limit one per person, which is what our intention was. But thanks for finding it. And you would have a customer for life, and it would cost you $20 extra.
But it's also the difference between an organization that's transactionally based, which is like, oh, we can't do that, to one that's actually relationship based, right? And I mean, because there was even with the recently I had to get this crystal thing handled, and I had placed an order, and what came was so below what was envisioned, and it was not entirely their fault. It was like okay, the scale, the way it looked on the screen, it was like, okay, I mean, I could have sat that with a ruler and measured the different things. So it was like, it was not entirely like they dropped the ball, but I was very disappointed. And they're very conscientious as a company. That's a culture point. Very conscientious company. Was I happy? And I was like, I'm really not happy. And so I said, actually, what I need is, and then I said, this is the corresponding thing that I need, and they said, well, that would normally be $300. And they said, we're going to give it to you for 50% off. So I was like, they all of a sudden became heroes and helped me solve a problem, and they've got a loyal customer. So I think it really comes down to, is a company, and to the point of customer commerce, is a company, are they just transactional, where they're only looking at each transaction and they're not looking at the bigger picture of what's the kind of relationship that we're putting out there in the world, that we're building and compounding relationships that people walk away really happy that they interacted with us? Or is it, we made X amount of profit on that transaction? It's like, you know what? They're looking at that financial transaction and they're overlooking the fact that what is the cost to your company over the course of years that's costing you, because you're looking at that one little transaction and whether you made a profit on it or not. And I think culturally that's an enormous opportunity that's really missed a lot.
And there might just be a level of awareness that's just not, this is why we're doing Real Customers, not just to share rants about businesses and business owners, but to hear about it and then go like, okay, cool. What would the suitable solution be? Because I think there are businesses that go, oh my God, oh yeah, I can do that. And it doesn't have to take so much time to reply to this guy and figure out, a discount code or whatever.
Well, I hope that we have his information so we can send him to Steve, because at least Steve can help him recover emotionally from this scar.
Absolutely. Well, there you go. If you do have a Real customer experience, please send it our way. I'll put the link in the show notes and we'll send to Steve. Steve is going to Francisco.
Francisco. Yeah,
Francisco. No, Steve's going to, multiple Steves are actually going to Dreamforce next week.
It's about 300 Steves, I think, are going. It's going to be a Steve-evolution.
Boom.
Steve-evolution.
Steve-evolution.
Steve-evolutionary.
Steve-evolutionary. Yeah.
But if you are at Dreamforce, please head to, we've got multiple booths.
1608 is the main one. And then we're also up at the Trailblazer Forest. If you're a Salesforce administrator and want to get hands-on, we've got our tech team up in the Trailblazer Forest, but then we've got our main booth down at 1608, and come and see us. It's the big orange one. It'll be hard to miss.
And I've even heard rumors that Sir Elton John is even looking to get his own Steve. That's what I've heard.
Yeah, and the reason he cancelled, David, apparently, this is rumor, is that he didn't have a Steve. So he's unable to attend now because he just didn't have his Steve, and they've gotten someone else in who, obviously is not Steve worthy.
We need to send
Pick's
out.
coming.
we
She's
need to
Steve
send
worthy.
out- We need to send out an email in the next 24 hours saying,
Elton
did
John.
Elton
Yes,
cancel
Steve.
because he wasn't getting his Steve? We
I'll
Yeah,
get that
sorry.
done. Although it's a bit stale news now. It was about a week or two ago, but yeah, there you go.
All right, gentlemen. Well, we'll see you. I won't see you next week, but the week after because of Dreamforce. But
Indeed.
have a great time in Francisco.
Yes.
And yeah, we'll see you then.
Bye for now.
Bye for now. Thanks for joining us today. We hope you had an awesome time, leaving you with ideas on how to improve your business and wow customers. If you'd like to leave a real customer's story, head to the link in our show notes and cuss away. Love the show? Please subscribe and leave a review because that enables us to help more businesses in building real relationships with customers and grow more rapidly. See you next time.